Hi, it's Natasha.
And it's your man Khalil, aka K-Man Nurse.
And we are the co-hosts of
WokeNFree.
Thank you for tuning into our 5th episode of WokeNFree. If you've been joining our conversation for the past couple of weeks, you know that WokeNFree is all about being real and honest with each other and you. And we're talking about everything and anything that's important to us, to you, and the world. And nothing is off the table. In this episode, we will be talking about the very deep question of how to find the one. Yes, the one. A friend of mine suggested this topic, and we were super excited to bring it to you to talk about it on
WokeNFree.
So we asked for you to do the following. First, subscribe to WokeNFree if you haven't already on iTunes, TuneIn, Stitcher, Google Play, and SoundCloud. Share the episode with your friends and family. Talk to us on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter at WokeNFree. Plus, you'll also find us on YouTube.
You probably know by now that every week we like to share a little bit about us before we dive into this week's topic. So last week we shared our 3 favorite songs and food we'd like if we were on a deserted island, and not the type of island that actually has desserts such as ice cream, but an actual island with no people. But this week we're going to share our favorite types of transportation. So sweetheart, what are your favorites?
Oh my. Okay, so I think I might surprise you. First, obviously, teleportation. Because is there any other better way to travel? I think not.
Of course not, especially when you're doing it Star Trek style. That's like the best way. Beam me up, Scotty.
Exactly. That's the type of life I live. Second, Bob the driver. No, I'm joking. Right now we don't have a driver, but we definitely will, I'm sure, at some point. And
but his name probably won't be Bob.
I hope it is, actually. And you know why. And I enjoy the idea of sleeping in the back of this vehicle that we'll be in, or motor vehicle, as Bob drives us to the roundabout places that we're going to. And then third, I would say the best type of transportation is driving my own car. Shout out to Mazda. Hey. I like long drives. I like when I'm able to drive up to Canada to hang out with my Canadian family. Shout out to Tori James Williams, who's the incredible producer of New and the amazing Williams family. And I also do a lot of traveling when I go and I talk at schools and conferences and libraries, and I get to sing to the beloved Whitney Houston, who I love and will always miss.
Mine are a little bit different than yours. So the first form of transportation that'd be my favorite is definitely Jetpack, because flying at the speed of sound really gets that adrenaline flowing.
Exactly.
The only bad part about the Jetpack is catching bugs in your teeth. So I'd say you probably got to wear a mask or something.
That's horrific.
Yeah, but people usually forget to wear their masks. Just watch those people flying the jetpacks. They put goggles on, but their mouths are just blowing in the wind.
Is that what they did in the Jetsons?
No, there's people that actually use jetpacks. This isn't some...
Where the hell are they going?
Just flying around, just messing around.
Like human android, or like the droids in the air?
No, there's actual... I can show you some footage, but there are forms of jetpacks that people use.
Fascinating.
And there's one that you think you can buy. It's like $250,000.
Gangster.
But that one is not... it's not really cool. You can't do flips and somersaults. Okay. It kind of just goes up vertically, and you got to be very careful with it because it's super heavy. But I'd want one of the jetpacks that are portable that you can just bring with you on the bus.
Gotcha. So it's going to be an interesting Christmas, I see.
Yeah, definitely.
Okay.
So then my second form is motorcycling.
Mm-hmm.
I have a motorcycle, and I love feeling the environments around me, and that to me is a great way to travel, just having all the air around you and not being caged. A lot of these people like being in their sacred cage, otherwise known as a car. But with the motorcycle, you don't get that caged feeling. You get that open and free feeling that we like to do at WokeNFree. Mm-hmm. We love to be free, so motorcycling's great.
God forbid people actually keep their arms and legs while they transport from point A to point B.
You can keep all that. You just don't need a cage around you. Why do you want to be like a caged beast just because you're on wheels? Doesn't make any sense to me.
Okay, fair enough.
The only good part about other forms of motor vehicle is you can carry a lot of people on it. But technically, the motorcycle, if you go to certain countries, I've seen 5 people on one bicycle. So
okay, stop being ridiculous, Chloe.
It is possible to use a motorcycle to transport goods and people around. It is possible. You just got to be a little bit creative.
Never converting me. Next.
So my last one is jet skiing. So we probably know that 71% of the world is covered by water, and that's according to the USGS, because I didn't know the specific number. I thought it was 80, but it's specifically 71%. So to me, that means it's very convenient to use for travel. It's everywhere, right? It's all around you. And if you haven't heard of a personal watercraft, you need to. There's nothing like hitting waves and splashing water in your face.
That's an interesting image that's coming to me.
Nothing feels like it though. It's a great feeling. It's having the environment around you, but this time it's all water.
Okay, all right.
You get air too, but I'd say this form. I mean, this could be my second favorite form because it's a little bit better than motorcycling. Because now you get water around you as well instead of just gravel. Like that. That's the problem with motorcycle. You have air around you, and then you have the ground. But with the jet ski, you got the air around you, and then you have the water. So, you can just take a dive whenever you want. Those are my 3.
All right, I think we're going to whisk you and our audience onto the topic for today. And we, again, are talking about how to find the one. And to do that, first, let's take a step back, right? Because in order to talk about this subject, we need to first talk about what is love, since it is woke and free. So according to psychologist Dr. Barbara Friedrichsen, in an article that you can find on greatest.com, which no worries, you'll find the link in the episode on WokeNFree.com, she defines love as a neurobiological response she refers to as a micro moment of positivity resonance. Essentially, she is saying that love is a charge of emotional electricity between people that can be observed physiologically. These moments can be shared between any 2 people, romantic partners, friends, relatives, even strangers. And she elaborates in this article to explain the science really behind love. More specifically, she says that the feelings of love can be chalked up to mirror neurons, oxytocin, and vagal tone, or the measurement of heart rate in relationship to breathing rate.
So quick tip on that vagal tone. This is a Wikipedia summary that I just looked up really quick. That vagal tone is actually just a nerve that runs from the brain to the heart.
Interesting. Okay. And, Friedrichsen communicates essentially when 2 people are connecting, people's neural firings come into synchrony across widespread areas of the brain. And then minutes later, they show synchrony in surges of oxytocin, the neuropeptide implicated in bonding. And in other words, love essentially is the connection that can actually happen at first sight. Isn't that something? And, really, if you really want to read more about it, definitely go onto WokeNFree.com to click on the link to the article, and you can read all about the science of love.
It's great to know the science behind love, which explains how our emotions work, but what about the types of love that people actually have? When I think of love, I think back to what I was told in high school. They told us that ancient Greeks had 6 definitions for the word love. Eros, named after the Greek god of fertility, is the sexual love that SOs have for each other. This type of love is portrayed in all types of media in a fantasized manner.
SO, define that for our folks.
Well, if you haven't heard previous episodes, it's significant other. And I did define that at that point. But just in case, if you're just stepping in now, because some people skip the first version of the movie and they jump right into the sequel. And sometimes that's a good idea.
You're digressing, sir.
Yeah. So the second form is philia, and forgive me if I'm saying that wrong. I mean, I'm not Greek, so I might be not pronouncing that right. But that's a deep friendship, not like the thousands of bots that are on the internet, or like the friends that you gain on social media. But it's true friends who actually make sacrifices for you in times of need.
Okay.
So the third one is ludus. That's a playful love, like teenagers flirting and teasing, as me and my wifey have done. And, we do.
We do it every minute of the day, man.
Just like teenagers, yep. Just like that. Not mature in any way. Playful love, yep. Exactly. So then the fourth one is agape, and a lot of people may know this one or at least heard of this one. So this love is the type of love that you have for everyone. It also can be thought of like as empathy, which, by the way, is said to be on the decline for the past 30 years, according to the Scientific American.
Interesting.
The fifth one is long-standing love. So that's the kind of love that happens between a married couple.
Okay.
So it's something you gain over years and years, but you don't necessarily have to be married. It's just a love that can develop over long periods of time.
Also known as pragma, right?
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
So philatia is self-love. So you know what that's about.
Okay, sir.
Get your mind out of the gutter, people.
It's self-empowerment, you must mean.
I don't know what the Greeks meant.
Just, it's
Hopefully.
open to interpretation.
It's self-love, though.
Gotcha.
And we all have that.
Okay, so now that we fully talked about what is love and the different types of love, is there, in fact, only one person for you out there in this universe? And that, I think, is an age-old question that has been asked and tormented probably a lot of people. But I want to, at WokeNFree, we want to give you the information you need to have clarity in your life. And in this 2016 Glamour article by Gary W. Lewanski Jr., he's a doctor, he's a professor and chair of the Department of Psychology at Monmouth University and the founder of Stay Go app, says that thinking your partner is your soulmate can create pressure because it can make conflicts between you and your partner seem more problematic. After all, if your partner is the one for you, you may expect your relationship to be easy and worry-free with minimal conflict. And he says, however, when the relationship inevitably fails to unfold that way, the fact that the relationship wasn't perfect is an even bigger issue. He adds that ultimately those who believe in the one are less willing to work through problems and deal with conflict. They're more likely to end things, initiate a breakup, for instance, when things are going poorly. Rather than putting in the effort to work through those issues, they tend to look ahead to finding another partner who may actually be their quote-unquote soulmate. Being that I'm sitting next to you, my love, and my other half, I think it's a romantic notion. I think if you go onto WokeNFree.com, you can also access this article and you can read more about what the doctor's saying. I think it's romantic to think that you live your life and you only find one person, but I do see what the commentary or the points that he's making, because if there is in fact only one person, then it does create a sense of I can't fail, or this can only work and it has to work this one way. And as we know, life is not really like that. But what do you think?
Yeah, I think he definitely makes a point. And there's people that try to force this kind of love between another when it's definitely not working out. And they think that they're the one. So they have that wrong notion that this has to work. Mm-hmm. So that could be a problem. But, personally, I really do think that the people can have just the perfect one. I think there's one person that you can really have the pragma love. Remember the long-standing type? Mm-hmm. To me, there's only one person that can have that type of love. I don't think you can have that type of love with more than one person. I mean, it seems, how do you have a long-standing love with 30 people? To me, there's truly one out there that's destined to have that. I don't believe in destiny, but I'm using that word. I shouldn't even use that word, but I think there's somebody out there that is your soulmate, basically. I mean, if you have a deep, mature love for someone, how is it possible to develop that with others? I know I found my one and only soulmate sitting right next to me.
You see what he's trying to do, guys. Okay.
But but the key is, don't expect, just because you found your soulmate, don't expect it to be conflict and worry-free. I mean, that's not going to happen. You're going to have tension. You're going to have to figure things out. In our culture, there's this notion that being in a relationship is simple. It's as easy as 1, 2, 3, breathe.
Yeah.
No, not really. Gotcha. It takes compromises and sacrifice to really make it work, not just labeling someone as your one and only.
Very true. Very true. Okay. So now, what are some of the benchmarks to know if you have found the one, right? If we say, okay, there is only one person out there, how do you know? So I came across this Bustle article written by BB Dietz, and she actually shared there are 11 signs to look for knowing that you found someone for the long haul. And I really liked her tips. Some of them that stood out to me was the fact that she said you like the person you are when your partner is near, or you're at peace with who you are when they're with you, or they'll be there no matter what, right? That ride or die solidarity. Also, this feels different from everything that has come before, or you've been dating for so long now that either one way or the other. I think that those are definitely great tips. What about you?
Yeah, those tips listed are definitely good, but I'd actually subtract the one about this feeling different than everything else that came before, because I think many relationships can be different than the previous ones. It's not a good litmus test. In other words, it's not a good measuring stick for you to find your soulmate just because this relationship was different than the other.
That's true.
I mean, that to me, that's not a sign.
I guess maybe more in a substantial way. So for instance, like, this isn't our love story, but say we were in a different scenario where we had both been dating for 7 to 10 years before we met each other, and we've had, I don't know, I mean, you're Mr. You, so who knows how many relationships you would have had. But for me, I think that, say someone has 5 relationships, right? And then they're on their 6th relationship. I think that commentary is speaking to the fact that in all of that person's 5 previous relationships, they never found someone who really supported their job or who really supported their passion for travel. And they finally have found that in addition to all these other traits that person has. That could be a good indicator. Like, wow, this person really is matching what I need. And I think that's I think what she was speaking to, at least.
Okay, all right. So that can make sense then. Like, they found not just something different, but something that they hadn't had before that they kind of yearned for.
Yes, exactly.
Okay, all right. So I also, there are some additional tips that I'd add personally. So this person should push you to be the best you. This person shouldn't try to fundamentally change your personality. And kind of most importantly, this person is single.
Oh, Jesus.
Not involved in another relationship and emotionally unavailable.
So true. Absolutely. We got to have heart, mind, and soul ready and willing and able to jump into this relationship. So true. Okay, so here's a funny question I think you had to ask.
Yeah. So another question is where not to look for the one. So to me, this is easy. Number 1 is Tinder.
Ouch.
And I'm just going to leave it at that.
Okay.
Second is a bar. The bar is not the best place to get to know somebody because most people are kind of acting funny. True. I don't want to say they're all under the influence, but they probably are.
Very true.
So the third place, I mean, this you should already know, but the motel room is not where you want to meet somebody. Because, that person you're meeting there probably is going to only have a professional relationship with you. That's where you get your arrows from. That's about it.
Ah, that's a good one. Okay. I would add to that list by saying the club. I know y'all want to, everyone wants to have a good time and let loose and go dance. I love to dance, right? But most likely that dancing fool is not going to be the one.
Oh, come on. That's unfair.
I mean, listen, for anyone who's found that long-standing love at the club, holler at WokeNFree.com. Hit us up on the contact page, because I really doubt that that's really a prominent place to find the one.
Maybe it's not prominent, but it might be possible, though.
Yeah, 1%, sure. Also, you kind of touched on it a little bit before, but even if you happen to be in that happy state, but you're not at a bar, if you're in that happy state and some other type of light part of your life, maybe you're at an event or whatever, and you're totally inebriated and out of your mind, I don't know if that, meeting that person in that state is going to be very fruitful for you in the future. So things to keep in mind, for sure.
Yeah, you probably shouldn't be lit.
For
probably
sure.
not.
Okay, so now what I think would be interesting to talk about is another thing that you had. I think you raised to me earlier, and we said, "Oh, we got to talk about this."
Oh, yeah, definitely. So even when you find the one, how do you hold on to that love?
Mm-hmm.
Creating love is just as important as finding it in the first place.
Mm-hmm.
So, to me, I think about this Bobby Caldwell song,
Mm-hmm.
What You Won't Do for Love.
Mm.
Check out that. It has some good lyrics in there. You need to be willing to make sacrifices and compromises. I touched on that a little bit earlier.
Mm-hmm.
That is very helpful. It can't always be my way or the highway.
Mm-hmm.
You need to also make sure to spend quality time with your partner.
Mm-hmm.
Just you two, though. Not friends, not family, not kids. Just you two. Not these joint dates where you got 8 other couples
True.
and you don't really get to just talk with your partner and get to know some things about them and find out how they're feeling. You know, you need that time between just you and your partner. It's really critical to me.
Mm-hmm.
It helps so you don't grow apart.
Very true. Okay. And I think I would add to that, and it's pretty much, you touched on it a little bit earlier, which is in a relationship, it's not about finding the exact person that's going to match you, but it's also about finding the jointness between you two where you guys kind of make this beautiful place together with your personalities and your different traits. But also, both of you have to come to the party willing to work it out. What do I mean by that? You have to work out your differences. Maybe one's Democratic and the other is Republican. God forbid. Maybe you have different belief systems. Maybe someone is Christian and another person is not. Make it work.
Yeah.
Maybe you have different ways of dealing with life. You cannot just say, well, I never cry, and if you cry, I don't know what to say or do with you. That's not an appropriate way of dealing with your partner. Work it out. You have to have a Venn diagram, literally, with your partner, and that happy inner space is where you find that long-lasting love, because you're willing to come and try to understand someone from another perspective, because this is supposed to be your one and only, and who else are you going to do this with other than that person? And also, not for nothing, but you have to be willing to work it out to also stand the test of time. I think if you're willing to work it out for 10 minutes or 20, days, that's not enough time. Some issues you deal with, it takes months and years to really get through. So are you willing to put in the work?
Here we go, yo. Here we go, yo. So what's the scenario?
Okay, cool.
It's scenario time, guys. We're going to go over a couple of scenarios, and what we're trying to do with these scenarios is give you examples of what are red flags for who is not the one. So for the first scenario, your good friends tell you that they know someone that's single and they'd be the perfect match for you. Do you go on a date with that person? What do you think?
Okay, so there's a couple of things there. I would say I'm scared about that language perfect match. Does your friend really know you well enough to make that claim? Also, is this person that they want to hook you up with? Are they on Facebook? Are they on LinkedIn? Can you do some due diligence and do your homework and start to figure out this person before you agree to who knows what and where? But generally, I would say, if you're open-minded and the person seems interesting enough, you should try it. But if you know in your spirit that you are not open to it, don't do it and then have a bad date and then say, oh, that's why I don't do blind dates. That's not cute and that's not effective.
Yeah, and I'd like to throw in another interesting point that a coworker brought up with me is that, what if you go on this date with the person and it doesn't work out? Like, does your original friend who set up this match, is that going to, make them feel a certain way because now you can't see this friend that they recommended?
Sure.
So that's one other thing that can pop up is, it can cause some bad vibes between, you and your original friend that made the recommendation.
True. It's kind of like what they say about not doing some interesting stuff where you eat, if you get my drift.
Yeah, that's exactly what I was thinking.
Okay, gotcha.
Don't sneeze where you eat.
Yes, let's go with that option. Yeah.
So the second scenario is you're dating a person for 2 years, the longest you've ever been in a relationship. The person also has been very secretive lately about not wanting you to see their phone. Should you confront this person or just let him or her have their privacy?
Ooh, Interesting. Okay, so I would want to know what are other things that have been happening in that person's life? Have they been having a hard time at work? Have they gotten some new friends? Are they having any challenges with their family? Have you found them also behaving in other ways that are different? Are they less intimate with you? Are they less comfortable with you? Do they want to have date night? But I would say this definitely would be a red flag, but the best way to handle a confrontation is to take it on, head on. None of this passive aggressive, oh, I don't know, do they still love me? Ask them. Get to the core of it.
Yeah, you gotta just be like a brick and just, mess stuff up. You gotta be willing to get your hands dirty, and confrontation will help in the end. Mm-hmm. So my last scenario I'd like to bring up is you frequently encounter the same person at the train terminal every day. You casually say hi every time until one day you get the courage to ask them out on a date. Mm-hmm. While trying to plan the date, they mention that they have kids. You're looking for a serious relationship, possibly someone that you will marry. Do you make an excuse not to meet up after hearing about their kids?
Ooh, that's an interesting question. So it's going to come down to whether or not you are open to that type of a relationship. If dating someone or being with someone in a substantial way who has kids outside of your relationship, if that's a deal breaker for you, then no, then you don't do it. You have to kind of get out of the date, unfortunately. However, I would say that what I think I mentioned in the last episode, before we even get to the dating question and putting yourself out there, did you ask critical questions? If you're saying hi to this person all the time, then it's pretty easy to determine whether or not they have kids or not. So shame on the person for not knowing that and then being like, oh, wow, well, now you have this whole other decision that could have been made before you got to that point.
Well, what would you think would be the telltale signs of the person having kids? I mean, you just say hi, you might say, man, it's a hot one today, or how about them Yankees? You don't... What really shows that they have kids? I mean, they might not get on the phone and say, mm-hmm. Hey, is Jamie feeling all right? They might not bring up any of their kids while on the commute. You might not sit next to this person. You just notice them and you say hi. So you have quick chat with them, but you don't know too much about their personal life.
Okay, well, I would say that if you're thinking about asking, I would say from my perspective, if you're thinking about asking someone on a date, then I'd want to know that person to a somewhat good degree before getting to that question. And so simple things. What are you doing for the weekend? Or, ooh, it's a holiday thing. Maybe you're saying, are you hanging out with family, friends, who's in the mix? And then the person who's a parent brings their kid up. Also, not for nothing, most parents keep their kids on their home screen and their phone and stuff like that.
So you have to be a secret agent that's checking their phone now.
Listen, Born Identity, it's good intel. Like, we should all be living our lives this way.
You peek over their shoulder randomly and say, oh, fancy seeing you there.
I don't know. I mean, I would say automatically, if you aren't opposed to the idea, then don't exit out, right? I think you don't know what you don't know in life, and you should give it a go if you're open to it. But if you're not, then don't disappoint people and don't waste people's times.
Okay. All right.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Well, it looks like we are at that time again. We have had quite a bit of laughter and hopefully not too much offense. For people.
Yeah, well, it happens.
Yes, it does happen. Especially during our 5th episode of WokeNFree. And it was quite the episode talking about finding the one. And as per usual, I like to ask the question, will I leave you hanging for knowing what our next episode will be about? Drum roll, please.
On our next episode, we will be talking about identifying if we are slaves to brands. It's very intriguing, right, guys? Mm-hmm. All right, so you know what you got to do. You got to tune in every week for WokeNFree Wednesdays for our new episode.
And if you want to be a guest on our show, if you want to submit a topic for an upcoming episode, or just share how you feel about what we've talked about or what we're going to be talking about, hit us up on our Contact Us page at WokeNFree.com. And again, we are active on social media, man. You got to hit us up. Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, YouTube, all that. And you will find us.
If you didn't already subscribe, please do. Share the episode. Like my wife said, go on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, YouTube. Make some comments. Let us know if we're not saying things that you want to have said. We'll do that. Just make sure you come back to join the conversation every Wednesday for WokeNFree Wednesdays. Until next time.